remember I was 5 years old when my dad bought me my first skateboard. It was at a garage sale and it was awesome. I mean, it was this little plastic skateboard. I remember just having it on my lap, driving home, just obsessing over this little board, just studying every part of it. And as soon as we got it home, I was harassing my dad, come on, let's fix it, let's take it apart. And we just stripped it down and we repacked the bearings and cleaned all the wheels and we even sprayed the deck, and it was rad. And that's how I got into skateboarding. And I guess that was my first memory of riding a board. I remember being at a family party. I was probably 9 years old at the time, and there was an older kid there who was like 15, and he had this sick board. It was an awesome setup, and it was probably like 10 inches wide and just a single kick board. And as soon as he put that board down, like I was on that board.
When you're lost in the rain in Juarez, when it's Easter time
I didn't have any shoes on, and by the end of the day, like my parents were yelling at me, come on, we got to go get in the car. And all I wanted to do was just skate. And all I wanted to be like was that guy. In the mid to late 80s in Australia, skateboarding was just electric. We had the Bones Brigade come to King George Square in Brisbane, and there was like mini ramps and vert ramps popping up everywhere. And there was a company on the Gold Coast called Burford Blanks, and they were pressing big blank uncut boards. You could go into your local skate shop and grab this Burford blank, and you literally could choose any shape you wanted. You'd line it up on the blank and you'd draw it out, mark all the holes. It was a really cheap way for me to ride the board that I wanted to ride. I guess the good thing about that was, you know, my dad was a timber craftsman and we had all the machinery at home. You know, he helped me cut the board out on the bandsaw and drill press the holes correctly and make sure they weren't out of alignment. And I think that's really what ignited in me a passion and a love for making skateboards. When I turned 15, I left school straight away, and I went into a cabinet making apprenticeship for 4 years and stayed on for another 4 years. You know, during that time I was still skating and surfing every day, and we were running on job sites, steel and bracing ply, and making, you know, makeshift wall rides and half pipes and mini ramps. And the more I got involved in skateboarding and the more I loved skating, made me realise that I didn't particularly like what I was doing for a job. It was at that point where I quit my job. You know, I literally drew a line in the sand and thought, you know, I'm going to make skateboards and I'm going to do it here in Australia. It didn't make sense to anybody else around me, but it made sense to me. At the time, the industry on a whole was so tight-knit. It was tough, man. And I mean, we must have gone through 400 or 500 boards to get the formula, the pressure, the glue, to get all that right. But once we did, then we realised we can do this, and we can do it really well.
I don't know.
We're always experimenting with different shapes, or coffin boards, or punk points, and bombers, pool boards. I mean, it was rad, and I guess it started us thinking, well, you know, why stop at timber skateboards? As I started experimenting with fiberglass and started experimenting with carbon fiber inserts, I realised that there was way more that we could do with skateboarding. And that's when I started thinking about plastics. And that's when I realised that that little plastic skateboard that my dad bought me at 5 years old, it needed to come back. I really wanted this board to resemble that little board I rode when I was 5 years old. But I didn't want it to ride like that board. The board we wanted had to be durable, it had to be fast, it had to be super responsive and ride well, and most of all, it had to be fun. Once we had the plastic formula down and knew which one we were going to use, that's when we could start designing the board and making sure that it looked good. We really were refining and testing every single prototype and making sure that it was exactly what we wanted. I know that the wheels are right, I know that the trucks are right, the hardware, the bearings, the formula of the plastic's right, and most importantly, the deck. I mean, the deck looks fantastic. And when you put all that together, that is what makes a penny skateboard. We're just having fun, building the best quality skateboards that we can make.
Can't you see, girl, what you're doing to me?
My name's Ben Mackay, I'm the founder of Penny, and I love making skateboards.
Honey, please, baby, love.